like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year on behalf of the Board of Adjustments. Hope everybody has a safe holiday. And we're going to go ahead and start the meeting by the reviewing and possible approval of the minutes from last month. Commissioners, what's your pleasure there?
Motion to approve. I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the November meeting. All those in favor acknowledge by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carried. Okay, item number 2. Request for a variance, 2 feet, allowing an 18-foot yard setback, 18-foot front yard setback from the 20-foot yard setback requirement located at 1302 North Cleveland, submitted by Erica Martin on behalf of Santa Rogue. Did I pronounce that right? Okay. All right, Sarah, you have a staff report on that?
So the application on this is, like Wendell said, it's to allow a 2-foot variance, allowing the front columns for the front porch to be 2 feet closer to the public right-of-way, making the distance from the front property line 18 feet instead of the required 2 foot, 20 feet. This is within the Board of Adjustments purview, allowing a 10% reduction in area requirements. And so this is something you could approve. It is still, even though the posts are 18 feet from the property line, they are still 38.5 feet back from the edge of pavement. And so there is still plenty of room between the street, edge of pavement, the curb line, and their front property porch. So it is my recommendation that the Board of Adjustment grant the variance request and allow the applicant to move forward.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Sarah or any comment on this request?
I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the request for a variance. All those in favor acknowledge by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carried. All right, item number 3. We have a request for variance for zoning code in regard to College Hill zone from the 12-foot ceiling height requirement. Maintaining the integrity of the stained glass. Building width must be visible by 25 feet or 35 feet. And the front building entrance must be articulated with architect's elements, and 50% of the front grade must be windows for property located at 509 West L Street, submitted by Dave Garza, Barrett and Associates, on behalf of St. Leo, the Great Catholic University Student Center. Pardon me. Sarah?
Okay, so I'm hoping that you had a chance to review the staff report on this one. In the College Hill zone, the first floor height is required to be 12 feet for all uses. Recently, a duplex had requested a variance, but they did not request a variance for this 12-foot height requirement. So just to be consistent, typically we would require this 12-foot height requirement. However, I do understand the argument that typically you do not need this height requirement for residential and or non-retail uses. The Prairie Creek zone does allow a reduced height for those uses for 9 feet. And so I do on this concur that maybe in the offices and the hallways they could have that height of 9 feet instead of the 12 feet. But the code requires that 12 foot. The second item is the entrance should be within the Build 2 zone within the district. And they are proposing to have it further back, located more off of the alley, even though it is facing the front primary street. It's a side entrance. I do believe that the intent of the district is to encourage pedestrian use of the district and providing easy access to uses within the district. And so my recommendation on that is to require front entrance to be closer to the main primary street. Going on to the building width, I understand that in the El Paso district, we do want to encourage kind of have a uniformity of buildings. However, I don't believe that it is it shouldn't necessarily be my requirement to dictate what size the building is, either a 25 or a 35-foot width. Additionally, in thinking about construction materials, you have sheetrock that's a 4x8 width, and if you're requesting a size that's a width of 5, then you're potentially causing construction expenses to increase. And although my job is to not look at expenses, I still want to be realistic and not necessarily cause a increase in waste from construction, and don't believe that just having a width requirement is something that we really need to regulate to. I believe that the other uses in the district, other requirements in the district will help to maintain conformity, uniformity within that district. Going to the front building entrance articulated with architectural elements, this kind of goes back to building entrance should be within the build to zone. I believe that the requirement for articulated entrances is to create character within the district. It's not to entice citizens into one's retail establishment. It's to encourage walkability, to create community, and the architectural entrances create a visually appealing area to help reiterate that district goal of walkability and creating community. The front facade window requirement, the requirement is for all new non-residential and/or mixed-use developments to provide a minimum 50% window coverage. I know that the argument that they are saying here is that it is not a storefront, and I understand that. However, there is a section in the El Paso district regarding specifically storefronts. So this is just kind of delineating the type of window that they would like to see there. I understand their concern for not having so much visibility into the church, and so do provide a potential way for them to reduce this requirement. So it is my recommendation that the Board of Adjustments grant a variance to the following items: a reduction of the first floor building height in office and hallway locations only to permit that 9-foot ceiling minimum as allowed by the other area in the district, grant the building width variance request and allow the width of the structure as proposed, and then grant a reduction to the front facade window requirement from 50% to 30%, which I believe will help establish that primary facing portion of the building as the front.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Dave, do you have anything to add to that?
Excuse me. I'm gonna get out of here early.
I think for the most part, the applicant and the arguments that we've made should give you clarity. I believe if you look at the zone, it's a brand-new zone. This is the third development in this zone, and with that, all three of them have had a problem trying to meet the codes to this zone. When I look at it, it appears to me that the intent of the new zone was to kind of mimic or look like Hendricks Village in Conway, which is beautiful, and I've been there, I've worked there several times, and it's really nice. But the difference between Hendricks College and this area is Hendricks was pure virgin land. There was nothing there. So you can do that. You can create a zone in a new virgin area, and then everything would have to conform to that. This is different, is already built out. And so if anything goes in there now, it's going to be a remodel. And all remodels now are going to have to adhere to this zone, which is fairly strict. Another thing, when you look at the zone, it appears to me that in the commercial sector, it tends to really look and target offices, businesses, and restaurants, because with the window facade, you want that appearance. You want to be able to see what's inside, so that people walking will be enticed to come in. Well, a student center is not that way. And the way that the student center is designed, the pulpit is on the front there. And they have that set up with the arch and the pulpit's in the front. You don't want windows in a pulpit because many of you, I'm sure, have been to a church service. If you have windows behind the pulpit and you're preaching, you're going to be distracted by every motion and movement that is behind that pulpit. And that's what's going to happen. And so that's why there's not there. Now, on the sides, they did design stained glass windows, and unfortunately, with one of the restrictions, we're going to lose part of that unless you grant that variance on the front entryway having to be within the 15-foot zone from 0 to 15 foot in the front. I think we gave you an option if that's what you prefer and say, well, we got to stick with that. The church is willing to do that. The architect has given you a design. They're going to lose the stained glass, but with the windows and the glass that they have there, they're hoping it will still illuminate that corridor and give some illumination to the stained glass on the east side of the building. But we still, and I appreciate Sarah and all of her comments, but I think right now the church would like to stay with the original request that we're requesting from you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the variance as submitted by the applicant.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve this variance request by the applicant as written. All those in favor acknowledge by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carried. Okay. If there's no other business, then Board of Adjustments is adjourned.